actually. Okay, I'm gonna add someone. I'm gonna BRB, okay? Because I have to.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I think the live is stable now. Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah, it is. I want to add. Okay. هذا مسلم مش مسلم.
That other guy that was here before, the
Yeah,
question that he was asking, yeah. I literally just started reading a book that answered that as the first question. Oh, he's here.
Yes, yes. I'll be back, guys.
There we
Hey,
go.
I'm gonna see what happens if I get on camera. Let's see if they kick people that are as good looking as me. But I'm just, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
I don't know what we don't have to talk about cosmological arguments. Sometimes those are hard for people to follow that don't have that background. So if you want to talk about something else.
I mean, I'm fine with the cosmological arguments. I've read into them before, but whatever you want to do, bro.
Okay. Well, I think the last thing I said was there's no logical contradiction in there being an infinite series of events. I don't see a logical contradiction. I don't know if there's an infinite series of events. There could be a first event. But the idea is that I don't see what's ruling it out.
Okay, so I would say the incoherent part of it would be because the premise exists within the space-time continuum, right? So the initial premise is what is the cause of everything. Your answer is it could be an infinite regression, right? So this
there wouldn't be a cause to everything.
With an initial cause to whatever is occurring now, right? That would be the claim.
There wouldn't be on the model of infinite regress where you have an infinite series of events. There wouldn't be.
That's the claim. I'm saying that's the claim. Right, your answer is it could be otherwise.
The claim I'm making, or just a general claim?
So I made a claim, right, that all things require at least an initial cause with regards to the origination of everything to begin with. Not a direct cause, but just an initial cause.
And that seems, I could be wrong, but that seems compatible with an infinite series of events where all events are causally connected.
Okay, so if all events are causally connected, and you're saying that there's an infinite regress, right? Let me clarify. When you say events, are you saying that events are dependent or independent?
Well, given that they're all caused, they're going to be dependent since the cause is a type of explanation, right?
Okay, perfect. So if you're saying that let's just use the word dependent and independent, right? If you're saying that there's an infinite set of dependent things, right? Mm-hmm. There still has to be an explanation for it outside of itself.
Why?
Simply because it's dependent. When you say the word dependent, that literally means that there is something causing it. So
no,
even if you want
to but non-dependent, there have to be a contradiction in saying that an infinite series of events that are causally connected or causally dependent, or but there's no cause for this whole set of events. I don't see a contradiction there.
Okay, so I wouldn't necessarily say that there's a contradiction, but I would say it's logically incoherent because the premise exists within the space-time continuum, right? So to conceive of a reality outside of what is known is the same appeal as what a theist would claim, right, of God. However, in the case of an infinite regress, there may also be an explanation for what caused this infinite regress outside of our frame of reference. So in this way, the question of the origins of the universe has not actually been answered.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if I understood you.
Okay. Do you want me to repeat it, or you want me to?
The first part. So we agree that there's no logical contradiction, right?
Okay. Yeah. With regards to a contradiction, I wouldn't necessarily say that there's a Actually, no. I would say that because you're saying that dependent, even if it's infinite, you're saying that dependent events can exist without some initial cause to it.
No. Well, what do you mean by initial cause? Like first
initial cause being an independent, right? An independent cause, right? Allowing for all of the other dependent things to be explained.
So you have an infinite series. Each of them are causally connected to each other. But then to say that the whole set of the series is not explained doesn't imply a contradiction.
Okay. Are you saying that the set itself is dependent or independent?
Well, by it not being explained, it's not going to be dependent.
Okay, how is it not explained? If you're saying every single thing within it is dependent, right, including the first part of it, even if you want to say it's infinite, right? Because firstly, like my issue with somebody claiming infinity is that infinity in and of itself does not exist within our universe, right? So it's a claim based off of an argument of silence. In
Well,
my opinion,
remember, I
the
already
only
said I
time
don't know. I'm just saying I don't see how you could rule out the possibility.
I'm getting there, right?
Okay.
So, with regards to the term infinity, right, this is a concept that we use with regards to math and such, right? The infinity itself does not exist with regards to our universe, right? We can measure the distance of the universe, right? We know how big it is, right? We know how big it was in the beginning, right? With regards to a singularity based off of the Big Bang Theory, right? We don't have anything to postulate the idea of there being a universe before it, so that would be an argument of silence again, because you would have to provide evidence for that, right?
I'm
So
just saying it's possible. Is it possible in your view?
you saying it's possible does not mean it's probable, right? So
Yeah, I'm not even
probability
saying.
is
Look,
also something
I
which
already. This is the third time I'm saying it. I do not know if there's an infinite series of events that are causally connected, or if there's one. There's a first event, and then there's a set of events after the first event that are all causally connected. To me, they're both logically coherent. They're both. The data doesn't really rule out one or the other. If anything, my intuition, though, although I don't think intuitions are justifiers. My intuition is that, well, look, I had today. There was a day before that one, a day before that one, a day before that one. I don't see why it doesn't go ad infinitum. I just don't see a contradiction.
okay, so based off of what we do know now, right? There was a study done in 1960, and it's still something which is accepted till today. It's called the cosmic microwave background, right? It was a study done in 1960, and essentially they ruled out this possibility or idea that the universe itself is something eternal. So if it's not
No,
eternal,
no,
obviously,
I think you're misunderstanding the Big Bang cosmology, right? What that redshifts and background microwave radiation is evidence that the universe expanded. It's expanding, um, but it's not evidence to show that the universe had a beginning, that there was a first event, right? Big Bang
okay.
cosmology, we're not going to go that far.
Yeah, with regards to it going with a beginning and an end or anything of the sort, right? Since it's expanding, obviously it starts off with something, right? There's the singularity. The singularity itself is not something which was constantly expanding. At some point, it was something which was constant, right? Until the energy within it is something which reacted and caused it to expand, right? So
I'm
that's what I'm saying
saying
when I
that
mean that there's a beginning to the expansion.
I'm just saying the evidence that you appealed to, the background microwave radiation, right? That data is underdetermined in terms of whether there was a first event or whether there's no first event.
Not really. They do know that at some point the singularity itself was in a constant state, whereby the energy in itself was not reacting with regards to the internality of it. Right, there
Uh,
was something. Right, the singularity itself existed. Right, I'm not appealing to outside the singularity or anything right now. I'm specifically talking about the singularity. So the singularity itself, it was in a constant state at one point. Right, the energy within it then reacted at another point. Right, we could. I mean, we'll just say point A and point B. Point A being that it's in a static state, point B being that it starts to expand.
yeah, this is an empirical question about what physicists believe. I challenge you to provide any source from reputable physicists that state explicitly that background microwave radiation is evidence for a first moment rather than an infinite series of moments. Physicists don't even talk that way. That's like
I
philosophy back,
didn't
right?
make the claim that it
I
doesn't.
and But
I didn't make
I'm
that
prepared
claim.
to grant it. I'm prepared to grant it to you, though. Right? Let's just say there's a first moment. Let's just say there's a
Didn't
first.
make the claim that it was substantiating it either in infinite or a finite thing. I'm saying that it's with regards to our universe. You appealing to it being infinite, you would have to provide evidence for any type of universe, first of all, existing outside of ours. You're just saying
I'm not
something that is
committed to that.
possible. Hold on. You're not going to answer that?
I'm not gonna. No, I'm not committed to that. Just because there's an
Well, why are
infinite.
you making the argument, bro?
I'm just all I'm saying, right? I'm not even. I haven't even made any claims about the universe, right? My claims are very simple, right?
You're just throwing all the arguments out there to see which one sticks. Or
No, I haven't. I've been sticking to this one claim, right, for the
what is
entire
your
time
claim?
I've been
What is
here.
your claim?
The claim is that there is no logical contradiction in saying that there's an infinite series of causally connected moments where the series is itself not explained. No contradiction. That I've been maintaining that for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, but if you're saying that the series is made up of composite parts, composite being that they are all dependent series or events or anything of the sorts, right? It in itself is something which is dependent, right? The series itself would be dependent based off of the fact that it's made up of composite parts.
That sounds
Anything
like
made
that
The,
sounds like a composition fallacy.
listen, the only
okay, go ahead. What's the
but the
composition
same thing, the thing that you believe in is ultimately in the infinite regress fallacy, which is for it to
fallacy?
be. for you to believe that there's an infinite regress means that this infinite regress would ultimately always depend on itself.
No, I'm not committed to that.
But
The point,
that is
but,
what
but
the infinite. You can't just say yes or no, because for you to prove that there's an infinite regress, you need to see how this infinite regress could explain itself.
I already said I don't know if there's an infinite regress. Remember
Yeah,
what my claim is that it's possible. She's making the claim that it's not possible or it's incoherent, logically incoherent, and I don't understand why. But
I gave two reasons.
going back to the composition fallacy, the composition fallacy is saying that if you take a whole and look at the parts, right, that if there's a property true of the parts, then that property can extend to the whole, right? You said earlier that given each event, which is each event is going to be part of the set of events, right, is dependent, that therefore the whole set is going to be dependent, right? That's just textbook composition fallacy.
Okay. What was the fallacy though? Like you're just saying the word, but I didn't make any fallacy with regards to it.
Did you not
It
say
being
that because each event is dependent, that therefore the whole set, all the series has to be dependent?
okay, is each set could it have gone any other way?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that would make the set itself dependent upon itself. Yes,
No,
it would, and it
no,
wouldn't
no.
be a fallacy. You're just making that. You're
It's
saying
not
that it's a
dependent.
fallacy without actually describing why it's a fallacy.
It's actually the opposite. The fact is that because I believe that each series, like if you have all these possible series of events where the events are different from one another, the fact that there could be a different series is to show that there can't be an explanation for why you have one series over another. Because if there is an explanation for why you have one series over another, that rules out all the other possibilities given that explanation.
Okay. So, okay, let me move on then. Do you believe, or would you say that it is more probable to postulate the existence of an uncaused cause rather than what you're saying right now?
An all caused cause, sorry.
Uncaused.
Uncaused cause. I mean, I think it's okay to say. I think it's fine to say that that's logically coherent. I just don't see why I would accept
Okay.
a first cause.
Okay, I'll
That's
give you the
presumably what
argument.
you mean.
Hold on, I'll give you the argument. I'll give you
Okay.
premises and then a claim, okay?
Do you
So
want me to let
premise
you
one.
finish the argument, or do you want me to challenge the premise that?
No, you can challenge the premises if you'd like. That's fine.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, all contingent things must come from a non-contingent source
Oh no, I reject the
with
premise.
regards to an initial cause.
Yeah. Um. Well, adding with regards to initial cause is confusing me, but definitely I reject that non-contingent things have to be explained in terms of necessary things.
I
That
said
doesn't make sense.
contingent things are explained by not like if there's a set of contingent things, right? There's box A and box B being the set of all contingent things within the universe. Box A must contain something that is outside of that set in order to explain it.
Right, and so that would imply that you only have two possibilities, right? You have that the set is not explained, or the set is explained by a necessary fact or thing or whatever. But the fact is that I don't know what it means to say for a contingent thing to be explained by a necessary thing, because then that contingent fact would just be true in all possible worlds, which undermines the contingency status of that fact or that thing.
Okay, bro. The contingent thing, right? Do you understand? What is the word? What is the definition of contingent?
In
Let's
philosophy,
have
it
a.
means that a contingent fact is just a fact that could have been false. Okay, or if you're
I
talking about
never said
contingent thing,
contingent fact. I asked you to define the word contingent itself, right?
contingent just means could
We'll
have.
have a functional definition.
Contingent is used in the context of a truth value or a thing that exists. No other context in
Yeah,
philosophy.
no,
So ultimately, wait,
no.
Itachi, if you
Yeah,
don't
go.
mind, take a step back, okay? What's your premise? What do you believe in?
I'm an atheist.
So nothing.
No, I gave you an argument earlier.
No, I understand, but like, what are you presenting to us? Like, right now, you're here to teach us something. What are you teaching us?
No, you have the prompt. You should convert to
Yeah.
Islam. I'm wondering why I should.
Okay, so but why aren't we the one teaching you?
Well, you
You
can teach me
said
something. You can
that
give
Eric.
you can give an argument for Islam, and I'm all ears. That's I think what she was trying to do.
Okay, so no, it seems like it's the opposite. It seems like you're making the premises, and we're just the one trying to debunk that.
That's not what just happened. She tried to provide an argument, and I disputed the first premise.
Because you misdefined the word itself, right? Contingent doesn't refer to
Who are
things
you
that could.
appealing to? I
What?
appealed to the philosophical literature in terms of a contingent net. Are you appealing to the philosophical
Okay, I
literature
could
in terms of
appeal to the Stanford Dictionary of Philosophy. That's fine, or a
Oh,
Stanford
well, then you're in
Encyclopedia.
trouble because contingent just means could have different. In logic, a contingent truth is a truth that could have been false. A contingent thing, like even when you look at Muslim philosophers like Avicenna, right? A contingent thing is a thing that didn't have to exist in all possible worlds. Or
Yes,
I mean, he
exactly.
didn't use possible.
Okay, yeah, okay, okay, then we agree, we agree. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, but what my definition is compatible with Avicenna's notion of contingent.
Okay, repeat your definition because no, it wasn't.
Well, the point is that there's contingent propositions and they're contingent things, right? But they have something in common. The idea is that either the truth value could be different, which means that it's true in some worlds and not others, or the thing could exist in some worlds and not others, right? So you have those two different, but the way that you understand that is in terms of proposition. So you're going to have to fall back on the first definition no matter what.
Okay, so with regards to the proposition, it's with regards to all possible worlds, right? If something can exist differently in all possible worlds, right, then that would make it contingent by definition.
Yeah, if it exists in this world but could have not existed or vice versa, it's a contingent thing.
Or even existed in a different way, shape, or form.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so like for example, I have my PlayStation controller in front of me. It's pink. If it existed in a different world as the color green, it's something which is contingent, or it could have not existed at
Oh,
all in a third
I don't
universe.
want to. I might split hairs on that, but it may not matter. We could. I might have a question about that because think about maybe because I know you are Muslims. You probably accept the doctrine of divine simplicity, but
No,
a lot of theists think that God can change not with respect to his nature, but that's he's still necessary. I don't know if you take that view or not.
we don't take either one of those views. We don't believe God changes, and we don't believe in divine simplicity.
Okay, well then I'm a little confused. But we can go that route. I'll leave it to you.
Okay, so you agree that contingent things, or we at least agree on a definition?
Yeah, I think we have the same concept in mind.
Okay, so when I describe a non-contingent thing, it would be something that is necessarily right the way it is in all possible universes, and it cannot
Right.
exist in any other way. Otherwise, it would be inserted into the first sets.
I'm fine with accepting that definition. I think the latter part is I'm still questioning, but I don't think it'll matter to our dispute.
Okay, so can we agree on the first premise? All contingent things must come from a non-contingent initial
No,
source.
no. Based on my understanding, I think we have mutual understanding of the concepts. I would reject the first premise. I don't know. I don't think it makes sense to say that a contingent thing is explained by a non-contingent thing or a necessary thing, because then that contingent thing is then necessary because the idea of an explanation is that it entails its outcome.
No, the non-contingent thing doesn't have to sort of produce a specific action for it to be for it to contain its non-contingency. An action is separate from what an actual individual or being or entity does. That's not necessary for it to be a non-contingent being, right? The action itself does not change the being itself.
I'm not so sure if I understood you. I think what I'm trying to say is that if X explains Y, there's a conditional that if X, then Y, right?
No, I don't get what you're saying. Sorry.
Like suppose the universe, suppose God. No, let's just use a benign example. Suppose planets, the amount of oxygen in the air explains why we're alive. Okay, so there's some kind of counterfactual, some kind of conditional, right? Where if there were no oxygen, right, we wouldn't be here. Okay, so the idea is that what an explanation does is it grounds a conditional, might ground a counterfactual, and
Okay.
so.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm saying, right, we'll say X is the quote unquote non-contingent thing that I'm describing, right? X can produce Y, Z, and A1, for example, or just A, right? X can produce X, Y, or Z, sorry, X can produce Y, Z, and A. However, it is not necessary for any of these three to even be produced by X to begin with.
Okay, then I think you're appealing to something called that I understand as a partial explanation. It's not fully explained as to why you have X or rather than Z or Y rather than X.
Yeah, but X in itself is something which is unexplained by all other things. It explains itself, right?
But the
Because
point is that there's going to be something unexplained. If you're appealing to partial explanations here, so that's
I didn't
fine.
appeal to a partial explanation. Me
Well, then is
saying
it
that
fully
X.
explained or partially explained?
Okay, it's fully explained with the idea that X in itself, right, is non-contingent, right? This would be the thing that is necessary, right? And by the way, I mean I could finish the premises, right, because that is actually going to go into premise two. But anyway,
But
X
you
would
can
be the
finish the theses. You can. I'm going to let you finish the argument, and then we can talk. If that's
okay,
maybe okay.
fine. So the first premise is, you know what? Let me change it a little. These all contingent sets must come from a non-contingent source, or the set of all contingent things must come from a non-contingent source. Premise two, there are only two ways in which something can exist. Either it exists eternally or it was created. Premise three, the source of all contingent things must be something which is eternal, right? The
Mm.
non-contingent thing. right? This is the claim. The non-contingent eternal thing is the necessary explanation for all contingent things.
Hmm. Yeah. So, where do we want to go? I mean, I think some of those I need time to understand. For instance, you're either everything's eternal or created. That seems plausible. I would have to think about it to be sure, but I definitely don't think that a contingent truth or a contingent thing, a contingent property, contingent X, Y, Z, whatever it is, can be fully explained by a necessary fact or necessary thing. It can at best be partially explained, but then you're allowing for kind of a brute
Yeah, but
contingency.
no, I think I see what the problem is, right? Is I'm talking about the set itself, right? So if we're to take the set of all dependent things, right? I'm saying that the non-dependent thing, right, the independent thing is the initial explanation for that set itself. I'm not saying that it's the direct explanation for every single thing that is a result of that set, right? It's
Okay,
just simply something that initiates the whole thing going or gets the whole thing going.
I thought I understood you. I think that's how I understood you. So you have the set of all contingent things, right? The idea is that what explains that set can't be a contingent thing because that itself is part of the set that needs to be explained, right? So whatever explains the set of all contingent things can't be contingent. So then you've
Yeah.
got two options. You've got you can say that you can say it's partially explained or it's fully explained. I guess, and then you want to say that you want to basically reject the claim that it's not explained at all, right? You want to say there's some explanation, but the problem with saying that it's fully explained is to entail those contingent things in all possible worlds because the explanation is necessary. A necessary explanation that fully explains a contingent thing would imply the contingent thing exists in all
The
possible worlds.
explanation, this is where you're messing up. Is firstly, right? I'm saying that it explains the set itself. I'm not saying that it explains the parts of the set. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the set is not something which is necessary. The set could have existed differently since it is contingent or since it is something which is dependent upon that initial thing, right? The A, right?
Okay, let me understand. You're saying I have a misconception. I thought I understood you that we need it. You want to say that the whole set is explained, right?
Like the set itself is explained, right? The
When you
set.
say set itself is explained, does that not mean all the members or the elements of the set?
Okay, yeah, those things would be explained by the things which are contained within the set. The set can explain other things that happen afterwards. The initial point of the set is what is being explained by the uncaused cause or the non-contingent thing or the independent thing. So that initial moment of the start of that dependent sets, right, is what is explained by that being.
Okay, I'm not following. Was that a yes?
I don't know. I don't even know what your
My question is,
question
when
is
you
anymore.
say that when you're providing an explanation for the set of all contingent things, is that to explain all the elements of the set?
Such as what? I can give an example.
Well, all the elements of the set are going to be all the set of all contingent things. So, like, we're having a well, you and I are contingent.
Okay, let
Um,
me let me put it this way. So the sets, right, the dependent set has variables B through E, right? Are you asking me if, for example, A being the non-contingent thing, are you asking me that A is the direct explanation for B, C, D, and E?
so you're saying,
No, I'm
sorry,
asking you. I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
yeah, I'm trying to understand the question. So you're
Okay,
saying that there are variables in the set A through what is it, B through
no,
E?
B through E is within the sets. Okay.
Okay, so that's a subset.
No, no, no. It is okay. We'll say that the whole set is B through E. Okay, B being the first moment of that set, right? The dependent event or whatever you want to call it, the
Uh,
first thing. Okay, E being the last thing you could call it. Okay,
okay, but
A. Okay, A is the independent thing. It is not part of the set at all.
right,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
that's
Are
fine.
you asking
A is
me?
necessary on your view, right?
Yes, yes. Now, are
Okay.
you asking? Is your question? Are you asking me? Does A explain every single one of these variables? Is that what your question is?
Yeah, the idea is I call them if we're using set theory, they're elements. Every member of the set they're called elements, right? And so the idea is that when A explains a set, how does that not mean that A explains all of the elements?
Because it's the explanation for the first thing of the element for all of the
Okay,
elements.
so the necessary explanation doesn't explain the entire set. It only explains a subset of the set, which is just A, or which is the first event, as you would say.
Okay, the first event, yeah, and then it can manipulate other variables within the set as well. It doesn't necessarily
Well,
mean that it
I
can't.
thought the whole point of the contingency argument is to explain what they call the BCCF, right? The set of all contingent facts or things.
That would be Ibn Sina's argument. I'm not arguing his argument.
Well, he didn't use set theory, right? That wasn't his argument. But it's Alexander Pruss's and the like. But the idea, if you're running that argument, you're not running that.
Hold on, hold on. Ibn Sina argues that the only way to explain the existence of anything is to postulate the existence of an uncaused cause, right? And he calls it wajib al-wujud, which is a necessary existence. This is exactly what you're trying to say with regards to and set theory would be involved in that, right? I'm not saying that he
But set theory was
wrote it
invented.
out.
Set theory was invented in the 1800s, I believe.
Yeah,
Right.
but
So
again, like I didn't say that he explicitly wrote out set theory. It would be explained within what he postulates before.
okay, is Ibn Sina's contingency argument or the Quinian contingency argument, is that just for you another just a semantic reformulation of the modern contingency arguments that are peddled by people like Alexander Pruss?
I would say everybody like borrows from other things. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's completely
Oh,
borrowed by other
okay,
people.
so I mean, the point is that I thought you were running the way that the way the contemporary philosophers run the contingency argument. So your
So
aim is
why presume or presuppose or
because
anything
you were
of the
talking about
sort? Why don't
contingent things.
go with the argument that I'm actually presenting?
Well, I don't understand the argument anymore because
Yeah, but I never appealed to anybody to begin with, right? Like when you
but you
brought up,
appeal to set theory.
I didn't appeal to set theory. I didn't say set theory. You brought that up.
By the
Okay.
way, guys, I don't wanna skip you guys, but I'm gonna give you guys another like 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, bro. Like, this is literally getting nowhere. But yeah, like you're presupposing things into my argument that I haven't said, right? Like I didn't say set theory. I didn't bring up Ibn Sina. I didn't bring up any names actually. I've literally read you my own arguments, and then you're saying, oh, like I want to argue with you with regards to what other
When
people have said prior.
was not okay, but didn't you say at some point that there must be a necessary explanation for everything that is contingent, right?
Yeah, with regards to what? Can you actually like go into detail with
I
regards to
don't
what I said?
remember with regard to I don't remember that clause.
With regards to the sets, right? The set itself is something which is explained, right? Because the set itself is dependent, right? If the set
So
is
now you're talking
dependent,
set
okay, so if the set is dependent, it requires an independent explanation for it, right? An initial cause, which would be the necessary existence for it.
but okay, but that's just okay. So let's just drop. I mean, it sounds like you're appealing to sets, and that's what confused me. This because I thought you were.
No,
Um,
I'm just calling it set. It doesn't necessarily mean it's called set theory. I'm calling it set for the sake of the arguments because you don't
okay,
like
so
when I use the
just
word
to clear,
thing. You don't like
you're
when I
not
use this
trying.
word. So I'm trying to make it very technical to this point.
Okay, so just for clarity, you're not trying to explain the set of all contingent things or facts. That's not what you're trying to do with this argument.
No.
Okay, so what are you trying to explain?
Okay, so when I say set, right, we could say group, you could call it whatever you want. I'm talking about one whole, right, that is made up of subsections, right, parts. Okay, that would be one thing. That would be B. We could call that B. Okay, A is not part of B. A is the necessary existence. B is something which requires an explanation for its entirety, right, as to what initially caused it. Okay,
Yeah, I'm not understanding. I'm sorry.
no problem, bro.
All right. Well, look, we can just end it here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate. Um, I'm sorry, is it Adele? I hope I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
it. For having me on. Good luck with your live. Hopefully, TikTok will get off your backs.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. See you.
Have a good one.